The reason we're going to talk about Paul Kemsley, PK, we're going to talk about PK. If you remember in this week's episode of Beverly Hills, I was not prepared to think that PK was going to be the voice of reason, or that I would really, truly ever agree with what PK had to say. Daphne's World just wrote, PK made me like him again. Totally. PK lightly touched upon having to go through a bankruptcy type situation. Because remember, guys, what's going on right now with Tom Girardi, it is a corporate bankruptcy. The bankruptcy is for Girardi Keese, the law firm. That is where they're trying to recover the assets for the creditors. So PK obviously is going to talk about, he lightly drops that he dealt with a 500 million pound corporate bankruptcy. I don't know if you guys on here caught that, heard it. What in the F he's talking about when he's talking about his 500 million pound corporate bankruptcy. And PK and Dorit have been one of the most requested things for me to look into. Where the money comes from, what's going on with them, what's their backgrounds, yada, yada, yada. What I will say is that the Times, over across the pond, the Times, PK was actually on the 2008 rich list. They said that he had an estimated personal wealth of 180 million pounds. PK, this is not corporate wealth. This is personal wealth. Is that wild? Does anybody else think that's wild? Wild. But here's where PK got into some problems. Okay, here's where he got into some trouble. He got into some big trouble. And for all the people that are on here or who might watch it later on YouTube or whatever, for everyone who is listening to this, who might have been children when the housing bubble burst in 2008. PK, I mean, this is why it's like you want to agree with him because you're like, wow, he's spot on. He's spot on. He clearly knows what he's doing. Do you know what this guy did? Do you know what he did? In September of 2008, PK decided to place a series of large bets that doomed U.S. bank Lehman Brothers would recover. We know what happened with Lehman Brothers, right? I mean, that was when Lehman Brothers closed. That was a big deal, guys. And in May 2009, okay, the spread betting company, SpreadX, we have user, we're going to do the last four digits, 4023. My husband worked there for 10 years. If you're a younger person on here and you don't fully understand the magnitude of the images, seeing Lehman Brothers shutter its doors and people walking out with their possessions in cardboard boxes, it was scary, just from the perspective of no one in their right mind ever thought that would happen. I don't know. It just seemed like alternate reality. Anyway, so because of this risky bet that PK had made, okay, the company, SpreadX, took legal action against him, claiming that he was liable to pay a margin call of £2 million. Well, here's where our problems begin. In March of 2012, Kemsley filed for bankruptcy, listing expenses of $34,000 per month, personal debts, so these are his personal debts, ranging from $10 million to $50 million. And the debts were owed to SpreadX, HMRC, HBOS, and Joe Louis. So these are people that worked with the big company that he had his £500 million bankruptcy case with. That is who PK owed tens of millions of dollars to personally. However, Barclays Bank continued legal action in the United States over a £5 million loan that they had made to PK. So then in March of 2013, the United States Bankruptcy Court initially found against the trustee who had applied for Chapter 15 bankruptcy. Judge Peck denied this application, calling Kemsley a bankrupt who doesn't live like one. The judge said this in the bankruptcy case. He says, "You're a bankrupt who doesn't live like one." And can I get an amen from every single Housewives fan? Is that not what we say all the time? Yes or no? And now, once you've heard it, we will hear Judge Peck in our heads over and over and over again. Every time we look at them. I mean, how can you not? Because Judge Peck was spot on. Spot on. He was. However, 2 months later, 2 months after Judge Peck said that, Peck denied all of Barclays' claims against Kemsley, saying Barclays had effectively mousetrapped themselves. So, here we go. It's important to note what this £500 million bankruptcy case was really about, guys. So he created a company in 1995 called Rock Joint Ventures Limited. PK created this with a guy by the name of Joe Louis of ENIC Group, which is a British investment company, and Spurs chairman Daniel Levy. PK was the director of Spurs from 2001. So I apologize, I got lost in my notes, guys. I know Spurs is a big football club. Yes, I know that. I know it. I got it. PK was the director of the Spurs from 2001 and vice chairman of the club at the time of his departure in 2007. He helped the club to reach a healthy financial position. Okay? So in 1995, he creates this Rock Joint Ventures with Joe Louis and Daniel Levy. Rock was an investor and developer of commercial and residential property, but they specialized in land trading. It also had a private hedge fund that specialized in acquiring strategic stakes in public companies, the most well-known being their 28% share in Countryside Properties PLC in 2004, which they sold to the chairman for a profit of £12 million. by 2007, Rock's property portfolio was valued at 750 million pounds. It was at that time, guys. It was at that time, so 2007. So this is 12 years after Rock Joint Ventures Limited was created. Joe Lewis, his partner, one of the two partners PK had that formed Rock Properties with PK, leaves. It set up a joint venture with HBOS to build a £1 billion property portfolio. However, we all know what happens. In the wake of the financial crisis of 2007 to 2010, Rock was placed into administration in June 2009, which is when Kemsley was removed from Rock. So this is the £500 million corporate bankruptcy that PK had to deal with. So I would safely say we could tip our hats off to PK for actually probably, knowing what it's like to deal with this. Because to be perfectly honest with you, you can never make Dorit and PK's financial situation make sense to me, guys. You can't. I don't get it. I will never get it. I don't understand it. He apparently makes quite a bit of money, and this is from the Wall Street Journal. PK accidentally got involved with world-famous football star Pele when he purchased the IP connected with the New York Cosmos, Pele's last team. He then flew to Brazil. So PK flies to Brazil to enlist Pele's help in reviving the brand. And from there, PK took on the role with Pele. Kemsley's management agency, Legends 10. So he's got his hands in a lot of different pots. Expects $30 million in endorsement and licensing revenues, and has secured a $100 million worth of contractual commitments. It's just so weird, guys. It's so weird. It finishes with, Kemsley is also a talent manager and owner of Nikki Entertainment Agency, where he manages pop star Boy George. So